The Alpha King stepped closer. Too close. Humans kneel, he said quietly. I raised the pepper spray instead. He inhaled. The guards panicked. The Alpha King laughed. That was a mistake, he said, wiping his streaming eyes. A bold one. 3 hours earlier. Elena Reeves had known this summons would come eventually. When you file a harassment complaint against a council member's son in werewolf territory, you don't get a polite email response. You get dragged to the Alpha King's office by stone-faced guards who won't answer questions and won't meet your eyes. The building was all glass and steel, glittering in the late afternoon sun like a monument to power. Top floor, naturally. The guards escorted her into an elevator that required a key card for the penthouse level, then deposited her in a waiting area with furniture that cost more than her yearly salary. The Alpha King will see you shortly, one guard said. The first words either had spoken to her. Shortly turned into 40 minutes, long enough for Elena's initial anxiety to calcify into irritation. This was a power play, make the human wait, make her nervous, make her compliant before the meeting even started. Elena used the time to review her evidence. Again, security footage, witness statements, time-stamped complaints. Everything documented, everything provable. Marcus Grayback had harassed her for 6 weeks, and she had proof of every single incident. When the office doors finally opened, Elena was ready. Or so she thought. The office was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a desk the size of a dining table, and behind it, a chair that looked less like furniture and more like a throne. The whole space screamed dominance, power, authority. And standing by those massive windows, backlit by the setting sun, was Cade Thornwood. Elena had seen pictures. Everyone had seen pictures of the Alpha King who'd taken power 3 years ago after his father's death. But pictures didn't capture the sheer presence of him. 6'4" of controlled violence in an expensive suit, amber eyes that caught the light like fire, dark hair just long enough to look deliberately unkempt. He was beautiful in the way predators are beautiful, fascinating and deadly in equal measure. Miss Reeves, his voice was cultured, almost gentle. Thank you for coming. I didn't have a choice, Elena said, staying by the door. No, you didn't. He turned to face her fully, and the dominance pressure hit like a wave. Please sit. It wasn't really a request. Elena felt the supernatural weight of it trying to force compliance, trying to make her body obey. She'd felt dominance pressure before from other wolves, but never anything this strong. She walked to the chair in front of his desk but didn't sit. I prefer to stand. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe or interest. As you wish. Cade moved to his desk with predatory grace, every movement economical and purposeful. He picked up a file, her file, Elena realized and flipped through it. Impressive documentation, he said conversationally. 37 pages, security footage, witness statements, a detailed timeline. You built a case like a prosecutor. I'm a paralegal. Evidence is what I do. So I see. He set the file down and looked at her with those unsettling amber eyes. You accused Marcus Grayback of sexual harassment. Do you know who Marcus Grayback is? The son of Councilman Aldrich Grayback, third in line for a council seat. Old blood, old money. Elena kept her voice level. None of which changes the fact that he harassed me. He claims you pursued him romantically. That when he rejected you, you filed a false complaint out of spite. Fury ignited in Elena's chest, hot and immediate. That's a lie. Is it? Cade circled the desk slowly, each step deliberate. Because from where I'm standing, you're a human paralegal who filed a complaint against one of the most powerful young wolves in my territory. That takes either extraordinary courage or extraordinary stupidity. Or extraordinary evidence, Elena shot back. He was closer now, invading her space in a way that was clearly intentional, testing her, seeing if she'd back down. The thing about evidence, Cade said quietly, is that it can be interpreted. Security footage showing a man touching your shoulder, is that harassment or friendly greeting? Witness statements from other humans who might have their own grudges against wolves. It all becomes very subjective. Elena's hand drifted to her purse, finding the familiar shape of the pepper spray canister. There's nothing subjective about a man cornering me in a parking garage and putting his hands on me after I explicitly told him to stop. That's assault. In human law, perhaps. Cade took another step closer, now well inside her personal space. In wolf culture, that's called courtship. Then wolf culture needs to change. His smile was sharp. Bold words for a human standing alone in an alpha's office. Bold or not, they're true. Elena lifted her chin to maintain eye contact despite his height advantage. And if you brought me here to intimidate me into dropping my complaint, you're wasting both our time. I'm not backing down. The dominance pressure increased, thick and suffocating. Humans kneel, Cade said quietly. In my territory, when addressing the Alpha King, humans kneel. Elena's hand closed around the pepper spray canister in her purse. I don't kneel to anyone, she said. Then she pulled out the canister and sprayed him directly in the face. Cade Thornwood inhaled by pure reflex, a deep breath that pulled the capsaicin straight into his lungs. The guards burst through the door, weapons drawn. Elena found herself staring down the barrel of a gun held by a wolf whose eyes had already started to shift, going more amber, more animal. But Cade's laugh stopped them cold. He was coughing, eyes streaming, face flushed, but he was laughing. Deep, genuine laughter that seemed to surprise even him. Stand down, he ordered between coughs, waving the guards back. Nobody touches her. My king, she attacked you. She defended herself, Cade corrected, wiping his streaming eyes. Against an alpha who was using dominance, pressure, and physical intimidation, I'd say pepper spray was a proportional response. He looked at Elena, and despite the tears running down his face, his smile was genuine. That was a mistake, a bold one. The guards retreated reluctantly. Cade moved to a mini fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, splashed it over his face. You have courage, he said, his voice still rough from the pepper spray. Real courage, not just recklessness, I respect that. Elena's hand tightened on the canister, ready for round 2 if needed. You were testing me. I was. He sat on the edge of his desk, somehow making the casual pose look regal despite his red eyes and dripping face. Marcus claimed you were weak, easily intimidated, prone to exaggeration. You just pepper sprayed the Alpha King and you're still standing here ready to do it again. That tells me everything I need to know about the validity of your complaint. Hope flared in Elena's chest, dangerous, tentative hope. So you believe me. I believe your evidence, and I believe that anyone with the spine to assault me in my own office isn't going to file a false complaint. Cade's expression shifted, something darker moving behind his eyes. But belief isn't the same as being able to help you. The hope died as quickly as it had ignited. What does that mean? It means that Marcus Greyback is the son of one of my most powerful council members. Old blood that goes back centuries. Aldrich Greyback has alliances with half the pack, dirt on the other half, and enough political power to make my life very difficult if I move against his son. So you're going to do nothing. The bitterness in Elena's voice surprised even her. You're going to let him get away with it because it's politically convenient. I'm going to do what I can within the constraints of the position I hold, Cade corrected sharply. I'm the Alpha King, not a dictator. The council has power, families have power, and if I start stripping council members' sons of their positions without overwhelming evidence and political support, I'll have a civil war on my hands. I gave you overwhelming evidence. You gave me overwhelming evidence that would hold up in human court, Cade said, his voice gentle now, almost kind. In wolf culture, what Marcus did barely registers. Aggressive courtship, testing boundaries, that's normal pack behavior. I can use your evidence to require Marcus to attend some training, to issue a formal apology. But anything more than that requires council approval, which I won't get. Elena felt something break inside her chest. So that's it. I documented everything, followed all the proper channels, and he gets a slap on the wrist and a sorry that he won't mean. I know it's not enough. You're right, it's not enough. She turned toward the door. Thank you for your time, Alpha King. Elena, wait. Don't. She stopped at the door but didn't turn around. Don't pretend you care. Don't pretend this matters to you. You brought me up here to test my courage and I passed your test. But it doesn't change anything, does it? Because at the end of the day, I'm human and he's a wolf, and in your world, that's all that matters. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Elena finally looked back at him, and she didn't bother hiding the disappointment in her eyes. You had a choice. Stand up for what's right or protect the political status quo. You chose politics. I hope it was worth it. She left before he could respond, walking past the stone-faced guards and into the elevator. Her hands were shaking so badly, she could barely press the button for the ground floor. She'd been stupid to hope. Stupid to think that one alpha might be different, might actually care about justice over politics. The elevator descended, and with each floor, Elena felt the weight of reality settling back over her shoulders. Nothing would change. Marcus would face no real consequences. And she. The elevator jolted to a stop between floors. What? Elena started. The speaker crackled to life. Cade's voice filled the small space. I'm sorry, not for the political reality I'm bound by, but for making you hope I could change it. Let me out of this elevator. In a minute, I need you to hear this first. He took a breath, and when he spoke again, his voice was quieter. You're right, I had a choice, and I chose wrong. I chose the path that keeps the peace, maintains stability, prevents civil war. I chose politics over justice, and that makes me exactly like my father, no matter how much I pretend otherwise. Elena's throat tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that I know, that I understand what I'm choosing every time I compromise, every time I take the politically safe path, every time I sacrifice someone's justice to maintain my power. The pain in his voice was genuine. My father ruled through fear and brutality. I told myself I'd be different, that I'd build something better. But I'm finding that better isn't the same as good. It's just less terrible. Is this supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to be honest. The elevator started moving again, descending. You asked me to choose justice over politics. The truth is, if I do that, if I throw my full support behind you and override my counsel to punish Marcus the way he deserves, I'll lose the political capital I need to protect the hundreds of other humans in my territory. The council will fight back hard. They'll block every reform I'm trying to push through, every protection I'm trying to build. And in the end, Marcus will probably still find a way to avoid real consequences, while everything else I'm working toward crumbles. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened. So I'm choosing to fight the battles I can win, Cade continued, and sacrificing the ones I can't, including yours. I'm sorry, Elena. You deserved better. You deserved an alpha king who was strong enough to do the right thing regardless of the cost. Elena stepped out of the elevator, stopped, turned back to face the camera she knew was there. You want to know the saddest part? She said quietly. I actually believed you might be different. For about 30 minutes, I actually had hope. She paused. Good luck with your reforms, Alpha King. I hope they're worth the people you sacrifice to achieve them. She walked out into the fading sunlight, leaving the building and the Alpha King and her stupid, fragile hope behind. Is political reality an excuse for injustice? Or is Cade making the only choice he can? Drop your thoughts in the comments. 3 weeks passed. Marcus Grayback issued a formal apology, written by someone else, read in a flat monotone, devoid of genuine remorse. He attended 3 training sessions on workplace conduct. His official record showed a counseling notation that would disappear after 2 years of good behavior. Elena quit her job at the law firm. Too many wolves who knew what had happened, too many sympathetic looks mixed with relief that it hadn't been them. She found work at a human-run company across town, took a pay cut, and tried to move on. She almost succeeded. Until the night, she came home to find Cade Thornwood sitting on her apartment steps. He looked different than he had in his office, rumpled, tired, more human. His suit jacket was gone, his tie loosened, his careful composure cracked. How did you find my address? Elena asked. her hand automatically reaching for her keys, positioning them as a weapon. I'm the Alpha King. I can find anyone. He stood slowly, hands visible and open. I'm not here to intimidate you. I needed you to know something. I don't want to hear it. I know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. He took a breath. I've been making political compromises for 3 years, sacrificing individual justice for systemic progress, telling myself it was necessary, that I was building something better even if I couldn't help everyone. And maybe that's true. Maybe I have made things better for hundreds of people by choosing my battles carefully. Elena's hand tightened on her keys. Is there a point to this? The point is that every time I make that choice, I become a little more like my father, a little more willing to sacrifice people for power, and eventually I won't even notice I'm doing it anymore. His amber eyes met hers in the dim light of the hallway. You were right. I had a choice and I chose wrong. Not politically wrong, politically I made the smart move, but morally wrong, and I need you to know that I know that. Why? The word came out sharper than Elena intended. Why do you need me to know? To ease your conscience, to make yourself feel better about choosing politics over doing the right thing. Because you're the only person in 3 years who's called me on it. Cade's voice was raw. Everyone else either agrees with my compromises or stays silent because I'm the Alpha King. You looked me in the eye and told me I was wrong, and you were right. Elena unlocked her apartment door, then paused. What do you want from me, Cade? Forgiveness? Absolution? I can't give you that. I don't want forgiveness. I want... He trailed off, then laughed bitterly. I don't know what I want. Maybe just for one person in the world to bear witness that I know what I'm becoming, that I haven't completely lost sight of the difference between necessary compromise and moral cowardice. Something in his voice made Elena turn back to look at him, really look at him. She saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes, saw the weight of impossible choices in the set of his shoulders. You could change it, she said quietly. You're the Alpha King, you have the power to. I have the title, Cade interrupted. Power is different. Power requires alliances, political capital, the support of wolves who could decide tomorrow that they'd prefer someone else on the throne. And if I spend all my capital on one case, even a just case, I lose the ability to protect everyone else. So one person's justice is worth less than the stability of your reign. Yes, the word was simple, brutal, honest. That's exactly what it means, and I hate it. I hate making that calculation. I hate knowing that you're the sacrifice I made to keep the system functioning. But I'd make the same choice again tomorrow because the alternative is civil war and everyone suffers. Elena stared at him, seeing the truth in his eyes. He meant it, all of it. Then we have nothing left to say to each other, she said. She stepped into her apartment and closed the door, leaning against it as she heard his footsteps retreat down the hall. For a long time, she stood there in the darkness, thinking about choices and compromises and the distance between what should be and what is. The sad part wasn't that Cade had chosen politics over justice. The sad part was that he was probably right to do it. 2 months later, Elena was reviewing contracts when the news alert popped up on her phone. Alpha King SURVIVES assassination attempt. Council member ARRESTED. Her hands stilled on the keyboard. She clicked the article. Council member Aldrich Greyback had attempted a coup, citing Cade's weakness and human sympathies as justification. The attempt had failed, barely. 3 people were dead. Aldrich was awaiting trial. And Marcus Greyback, given immunity in exchange for testimony against his father, walked free. Elena stared at her phone screen for a long moment. Then she deleted the news app and went back to work. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some battles are lost before they're even fought. Some people make the hard choices and live with the consequences, and some people pay the price for those choices without ever getting justice. She never saw Cade Thornwood again. But sometimes, late at night, she wondered if he thought about her. If he remembered the human who'd pepper-sprayed him and demanded better. If he counted her among the sacrifices that kept his kingdom stable. She suspected she already knew the answer. Sometimes the right choice and the just choice aren't the same thing. Sometimes courage isn't enough. Sometimes you do everything right and still lose. What do you think? Was Cade wrong to choose politics over justice, or was he making the only choice he could? Let me know in the comments. And if this story made you think, even if it didn't make you happy, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that don't always have easy answers. Thanks for watching. She bore the pepper spray so she could fight back. She built the evidence so she could prove the truth. She stood her ground so she wouldn't be broken. And in the end, none of it mattered. Because some systems are too big to fight alone. And some kings choose their kingdoms over what's right.